Hi, this is Luann from weddingflowersandreceptionideas.com. I'm going to introduce you to our simple wedding flower calculator. This is what you'll need if you're going to order bulk wedding flowers and to decide exactly how many of every stem you have to order. You can see here on our page, you simply roll down to the bottom of the page. This large red button will download the calculator for you. If you get an error message, it may be that you don't have Microsoft Excel on your computer programming. You can download, by clicking this link, a free Excel reader from the Microsoft site. As it is, I'm going to click on this button so you'll see what you get. You'll see it asking you to either open it up or save the file. You can always save the file later if you wish. So right now I'm going to just click it to open. You can see this is just a simple Excel worksheet. It extends all the way from the right. And you click the sidebar at the bottom to click over so you can see what's on the extreme right or the extreme left. There is more stuff at the bottom. I'm having trouble with the video as I scroll down to the bottom. It tends to break up, so I'm going to try to show you as much first this way. The calculator is interactive. That means if you click on something that you're supposed to fill in the blank with a figure, then if you click on an Excel column, you'll see a green rectangular circle around that particular cell, and that's where you can fill a number in. If it's not interactive, if you click on it, it won't do anything. If you do need to go to my website, just go to the upper left-hand corner, and you can click on the active link right there. It's found up there above in the pink. Now, when a florist sits down with you, they're going to sit down and ask you questions, especially they're going to want to know everybody that you're going to want to give flowers to. And they're going to fill out these totals based on what you say to them. So we're going to just make up a mock wedding here right now and pretend that I'm sitting down with a bride consultation. I have one bride. She's telling me she has 5 bridesmaids, and that she's going to have 2 flower girls who are actually going to have a tussy-mussy rather than petals. So I'm going to put 2 flower girls. Now you realize I don't have a separate column for stepmothers. So if you have a stepmother attending, you may want to include her corsage in this column, or you can include it over here in the other column. I'm going to pretend we have 2 mothers, 4 grandmothers, hopefully just 1 groom, 5 groomsmen. Now, additional corsages is anyone else who's going to be wearing or either a lapel corsage or a wristlet corsage. This could be like a young cousin who's giving out your wedding programs, or a nice neighbor lady who's cutting your wedding cake for you, anyone that you want to honor with a corsage. So at this point, I'm going to pretend the bride tells me she needs 3 additional corsages. Now you'll notice I don't have columns for fathers or stepfathers or grandfathers or even a ring bearer. So you're going to have to count those up and put them in the additional boots. So at this point, I'm going to pretend that we have 4 grandfathers and 2 fathers, that's 6, plus 1 more for a ring bearer. So I'm going to say that we need 7 additional boutonnieres. Now the throw bouquet is not something I usually add extra flowers in for. Usually there is excess mounts left over after you buy growers bunches. But at this point right now, I want to make sure that you don't forget to make your throw bouquet if you want one. I'm going to skip over centerpieces at this point, but I am going to pretend that we're going to create 2 large altar sprays for the front of the church. And also that we're going to put fresh flowers in the pew decor, and that we need 10 of the pews to be covered. After you get done, if you click, you'll see that all of your things are filled in with the number of your wedding. If you have any other flowers, such as a remembrance bouquet for a deceased person that you want to honor, or if you want to give the mothers special roses after you light your unity candle, any other flowers, you need to count them in this other bracket so that we make sure we don't forget about them. Now I'm going to talk a little about what else is on this form here in the different sections. You'll see over here in the extreme left that there's several different categories outlined in orange. The first is the focal flowers. The focal flowers are the main flower or the main color of the bouquet. So it can be the fact that the flowers are very large, say in the case of like oriental lilies, Or it can also be because there's such a mass of a certain kind of flowers, such as roses in your bouquet. Whichever shows up the most in your bouquet is your focal flowers. Now, secondary flowers are just that. They are usually smaller headed flowers. They usually complement the focal flowers, and they're not necessarily cheaper, but there's just not usually as many of them, and they're not as big of headed flowers. Filler flowers refers to things such as baby's breath, wax flower, status, anything that is just tucked here and there to fill out the space of the final bouquet. Now, tall linear flowers are not usually included in corsage work or in bride's work, or the attendance work, but you do need to think about tall line flowers if you plan to do altar or banquet pieces, because you're going to need tall linear flowers to make those big bouquets really pop out from a distance. Tall linear flowers can include things such as gladiolas, snapdragons, ostomeria, anything with a really large stem that can create a large spray of flowers. And the very bottom category is greenery. Greenery is often used for interest in the corsages, the boutonnieres. You may want to frame the bridal bouquet with something like seeded eucalyptus. This is where you need to list all of those products as well so that you don't forget any of that when you're creating your flower recipe. Now over here, if I slide my bar all the way over to the right, you can see once I fill out these numbers and start filling out my recipes, that it's going to start calculating the total stems we need. But I'm also going to need to figure out how many stems are in a bunch, a single bunch of flowers. Now, there is a chart down below. I apologize if this breaks up, because as I've been making these tutorials, when you scroll down too far, it causes the program to gray out. But if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see that there's a lot of handy information down here on the bottom. It shows fresh flower names and actually how many stems per bunch. And if you want to see the actual flower, just click on the active link on the right-hand side. If you come over to the left, you can see that there are suggested floral supplies. These are common flower products that you may not have thought about, such as your bouquet holders, tape, wire, floral adhesive for corsages, anything like this that you may not think about. But we are a one-stop shop. We ship out of a true floral wholesaler, so anything that a flower shop can buy is available in our through our wholesalers. So that's why we're kind of jogging your memory a little bit about these items. You also can look at greenery and see how many stems come per bunch of the greenery. You will see that sometimes it says estimated stems. That's because growers' bunches don't always come by a certain number. They come by weight. So we just kind of have to guess at how many stems are in that. It's all a standard weight. It's just not a standard number of stems, because these are a grown product. And they aren't stamped out like you would if you bought a silk flower or a silk flower greenery. Okay, so you may need to scroll down if you need any of this information, such as how many stems per bunch, or if you need to see what the certain flowers look like. Hopefully I'm going to roll back up. We're going to get back up here, and now we're going to start doing our actual filling out our recipe. Now, what a recipe is in a flower shop, it means that it's a guide to the florist of how many of what kind of flower to put in those bouquets. When you decide on those recipes now, you're going to calculate how many flowers you need to fill that recipe. You have to make sure you print this off and that you follow those guidelines, because you don't want to change your mind later and put 25 roses instead of 15 roses into the bridal bouquet, even though it may look better. When you reach your corsages and your boutonniere work, you may be dismayed to find out that you don't have enough leftover flowers because you used them all up beforehand and didn't follow your recipes. So let's pretend the first focal flower is going to be a pink rose. And let's say this imaginary bride tells me that she wants 1.5 dozen pink roses in her bridal bouquet. Now, once you click anywhere else on the website, you'll see that 18 stems showed up under total calculated pink roses stems. It's keeping track for you how many you're going to put into each bouquet. Now, say this bride tells me she wants 6 pink roses in every bridesmaid bouquet. I click calculate, And you can see where it added another 30 roses on top of the total stems. Why 30? It's because it took 6 roses and took times 5 bridesmaids to total another 30 stems. You can quickly go down and decide how much you want to put in every design. Let's say we want to put 3 pink roses in the Flower Girls Tussie Mussy. Say we want to put 3 pink roses in the Mother's Corsage, but we're only going to put 2 in the Grandmother's. We're going to put 1 flower in the Groom's and 1 in each of the groomsmen's boots. But additional corsages, I'm going to make them a little smaller than I am the Mother's and the Grandmother's. So I'm only going to put 2 roses in the additional corsages. Figuring out this way with a calculator gives you a lot of control over being able to go back and keep changing numbers until you can stay within your budget, but yet you're satisfied with the number of flowers that's going to show up in your designs. My additional boutonnieres, I need 7 more, so I'm going to put 1 rose in each of those. Skip the throw, the centerpieces. But now look at this. Okay, I have to ask myself, am I going to put any roses in the altar bouquet? But let's just say for right now, we are going to put 18 roses in each altar bouquet. So that means you're going to take 18 times 2, which this should add another 36 roses to your total. Now you see you have a total of 123 stems that you need. But you're not done with your calculations yet. Because if you roll down here to the bottom, remember it tells you how many stems are per bunch. And when we look at that chart, we see that flower grower bunches come 25 roses to a bunch. And when we click calculate, suddenly it rounds up and tells us that we need to order 5 bunches of pink roses in order to have enough stems to fill our recipes, and we will have 2 stems left over. Now I want to tell you something, don't worry about excess stems unless it grows to be a great amount. The reason why is because florists know that freshly grown products, field products, they're not perfect. You know, they are picked and packed in the field, on the field site, even though the growers try to go to great extremes to make sure to protect every flower stem. Some may not just make the cut. They might be a little wilted, or a flower head may pop off during shipment. It's good for you to have a few excess stems that you have just in case something happens to 1 or 2 of your flowers in your bunches. Now I'm going to come down here and say, well, perhaps I want more than just pink roses in my bridal bouquet. What if I want some stephanotis? So I fill in stephanotis. And then I'm going to say, well, how many stephanotis do I want? Now, I know as a florist that 25 stephanotis heads comes to a box. So I'm going to say that I want 18 stephanotis in my bridal bouquet to match the 18 roses I have. Now, I'm going to take the excess and I'm going to put them somewhere else. Perhaps I will put 1 of them on the groom's boutonniere, and perhaps I'm going to put 3 in each mother's corsage, and I'm going to put 2 in each grandmother's corsage. See how I'm beginning to build my recipes? But I'm going to skip them. They're pretty expensive flowers, so I'm not going to put them in the additional corsages or boutonnieres. I come over here, I click calculate, and you can see by the numbers I fed into the sheet that I'm going to need 33 stephanotis heads. I know if I scroll down below that 25 heads comes to a box. When I click calculate, it tells me that I need to order 2 boxes and that I'm going to have 17 stems in excess. Now you can go back and take off and go down until you reach exactly 25, or you can add more into your actual designs so that you can disperse those other 17. It's totally in your control. Now I want you to think about some secondary flowers such as white daisies. Now, flowers like roses and stephanotis are very direct, and you know how many flower heads are going to come. Carnations have 1 flower head to a stem. Roses have 1 flower head. But something like daisies may have 3 or 4 flowers to 1 single stem. So you have to keep that in mind, that you're calculating how many stems do you need, not always how many flower heads you need. So I'm going to say if there's an average of 3 or 4 daisies to every stem, that I need 3 more stems to put in my bridal bouquet. And that I'm going to put in 4 stems of daisies in each one of my bride's bouquets, in addition to the pink roses they're already getting. And then I want to put 2 stems each in the flower girls. And I'm going to skip the boutonnieres and corsages because I don't want daisies in these. So how you come over here, and when you click, you see that you need 27 stems. Now, I already know that if I scroll down below, that it would tell me that I average 6 stems for a bunch. When I click calculate, it figures and rounds up to the number of bunches I need. I now need 5 white daisy bunches, and then I'll have 3 stems left over. And 3 times 3 heads each means I have about 9 daisy heads left over. Do you begin to see how a florist thinks and how they calculate so that they can get the most for their money, yet satisfy what the bride is paid for to give her her entire worth? They build their own recipes. You can come down and add in things like baby's breath. Now, on something like baby's breath or status or limonium, these are very feathery, full flowers. You can imagine what baby's breath is. And you don't always need complete full stems for, like, say, a single boutonniere or corsage. One stem has got plenty of sprays on it. So let's say if I'm going to put baby's breath in the brides, I'm going to only need 2 stems to put in baby's breath here and there. And I'm going to need maybe 2 stems for each bridesmaids. And maybe only half a stem because the flower girls are much smaller. For half stems or quarter stems, you either put 0.5 or 0.25. You have to put it in decimal form. So I'm going to put a half a stem in the mother's corsages. I'm going to put a half a stem in the grandmother's, and I'm only going to put a quarter of a stem in each of the boutonnieres. But the nice thing about the calculator is it's going to figure up all those and round them up to the next whole flower. So when you click over here, you see that you need 19.75 stems of baby's breath. Baby's breath is sold by the weight, not necessarily by number of stems, but there's usually an average of about 6 to 8 stems in one thing of baby's breath. So we're going to put in 6 stems per bunch, and when we click calculate, now we know we need 4 bunches of baby's breath, but we have 4 stems left over. Can you see how nice this calculator will work for you when it comes to figuring out what you need? Say we come down to greenery and say that we want to wrap each one of our boutonnieres in stephanotis stems, in Gaelic leaves. So I would type in Gaelics, and then I'm going to roll up here so I can see my groom. And I'm going to just wrap his rose in 1 Gaelic sleeve. So I'm just going to put 1. Now keep in mind there's 25 leaves in one bunch. And I'm going to put a Gaelic sleeve in each groomsman. And I'm going to put a Gaelic sleeve in each additional boutonniere. When I click calculate, you can see on all the boutonnieres that I need 13 leaves. But I know that 25 leaves comes in one bunch. So it tells me that I need to order 1 bunch, but I'm going to have 12 Gaelic sleeves left over. So that's kind of nice, because that means that maybe I can tuck those extra Gaelic leaves under and make a ring of Gaelic sleeves around the bridal bouquet. The last thing I want to talk about is the tall linear flowers. Don't order any of these unless you need them for like a very long cascade, or if you need them in centerpieces, or if you need them in your pew design. I hope you understand the simple workings of the wedding flower calculator. I hope it makes your life easier when you become your own wedding florist and you calculate out your wedding flower designs. This is Luann from weddingflowersandreceptionideas.com. Please visit my site. You can see thousands of ideas for bridal bouquets, corsages, centerpieces, boutonnieres, and much more. And I have lots of step-by-step tutorials with flowers that shows you exactly how to use all the products that you find in my own store. Thank you.